are going to be with us on today. And so I would like to I'm going to welcome you again. I'm Jenny Shanker, for those of you who I have not met, although I think that I know most of you based on who I see joining. And I want to thank you for joining us at the Michigan Center for Student Success for our Michigan's Start to Finish webinars with the Dana Center, focused on redesigning mathematics courses and pathways. Thanks for being with us today. And I am going to share my screen. I have a few slides to share with you. Actually, wait just one second. All right. Okay, so redesigning mathematics, part 2, creating effective co-requisite mathematics classes face-to-face and online. Here is our MCSS staff. We're happy to be here to support you. We also have Michelle Taylor on the line from our office. Erica Oriens is on vacation. And Precious, Jenny, and Katie are standing by to support this webinar. So thank you all for being with us. Okay. We've been asking people at our meetings, it's worked well to rename yourself to include your college. That's particularly helpful for our facilitators from the Dana Center. They can see where you're from when you're speaking. So if you go to the participant list from your system tray, you will see your name come up. Click on that little more button. Click on rename, and then you can type in your name and add your college to it. We encourage you to use chat for engagement, and we'll also be monitoring for raising hands, which you can also do for your participant list. So both of those are down in your system tray, and I imagine that a lot of people are getting quite familiar with this, as we've been running these slides in every meeting that we've done, and I know that we were just talking earlier about how many Zoom meetings we've all been in, so we're still learning, but getting good at some of it. And here is someone has added something to the chat. Oh dear, my audio is not very good apparently. All right, I'm going to turn my video off. It's been nice to see you, and we'll see if that will help. Okay, so I just have a couple of things that I want to update you on today, and I'm actually going to go ahead, since I'm not sounding so great, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Katie Giardello, who's going to talk just a little bit, really briefly, about our math transferability project. Katie, do you want to take that?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I don't know if I'm the only one hearing Jenny sound like she's beatboxing, but she's got a little bit of garbled audio. So I'm Katie. Sorry you don't get to see me on video today. I just did 26 miles on my bike, but I made it to the desk so that we could have this conversation. And I'm actually deep into updating these matrices that you're seeing a screenshot of on our website. You may know that the Right Math at the Right Time Steering Committee decided to extend their work after creating common learning outcomes for the entry-level courses in the 3 MTA mathematics pathways. The group decided that they wanted to do a little digging kind of as an extension of our My Transfer project, where we are creating course equivalency matrices that show equivalence between and among a bunch of institutions across the state of Michigan. And that's what these matrices are on this screen. So if you're someone who does not have access to the Michigan Transfer Network or mytransfer.org database, you can find printouts of the course equivalency matrices that show whether or not you have equivalence between your course and your sister colleges and universities courses in those entry-level math pathways. You can find them static here on the website that Jenny has linked on the slide. If you do have secure access to the MTN, you can find those in live action. And I am in the process right now of downloading the latest editions of those that Jenny will be then uploading to the web so that you can see the more recent updates if you're not someone with secure access. But again, if you do have secure access, you can get to those matrices live in living color. And if you have any trouble reading them because they are a little bit complicated, feel free to reach out. If you do notice any discrepancies, like for instance, we may have the wrong course listed for you, these are based on a survey that was done several years ago, and we know that sometimes there are catalog updates. So feel free to send me or Jenny an email and we can make those corrections. Our hope is that folks will be taking a look at these matrices and working to make the courses equivalent and getting those things uploaded to the MTN so that we can show these beautiful green box matrices that indicate there's green for go, transferability among and between all participating institutions. We hope that you'll be able to get that work done by August 15th, I believe is the deadline that we are using, such that we will be able to then list our progress in the report that we will send to the legislature on our holistic transfer efforts. So Jenny, hopefully I hit everything. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand, put it in the chat, or just unmute yourself. We are a small enough group today that you can probably do that if you have questions about the transfer project.
Agree. And I just wanted to highlight that we're hoping to see the green boxes. You can see that we have a community college to community college to university, and community college to independent college matrix for each of the courses. So although it's something that we don't often think about, we just have discovered that we really don't have good transferability amongst our sister community colleges, and so we encourage you to also reach out as you're looking at your university partners and other four-year partners. Look also at your neighboring and maybe not so neighboring colleges to see if you can shore up those transferability equivalencies. Transfer equivalencies is the word that I want to use. I now want to turn it over to Jamie Jacobs from MCAN to talk just a little bit about a new project that they are launching. And so, Jamie, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me good?
I can.
Perfect. I'm not beatboxing, so that's great. Thanks, Jenny, and thanks for giving me a few minutes just to talk about a new project that we're working on in partnership with the Center for Student Success. We're calling it the Michigan Partnership for Academic Transitions because everything needs a name. I imagine most of you on this call know us, but our commitment to this space is around increasing college access, readiness, and success. And this new work, we are hoping to work in partnership with community colleges around, which we haven't done some dedicated community college work as of recent. So what you'll see on the screen in front of you is big picture, what we're hoping to support with the Michigan Partnership for Academic Transitions. We are hoping to support community colleges that are interested in significantly increasing the number of students who complete Gateway Math in the first year, with a particular focus on looking at racial equity gaps. There's a myriad of ways to take this on. It could look like improved academic transitions from K-12 into post-secondary. It could also look like redesigned developmental ed. It could look like both of those things. It could be attacked from a readiness, placement, and dev ed or remediation perspective. And what MCAN, in partnership with the center, is hoping to provide is coaching, technical assistance from folks like experts at the Dana Center, who we've been having conversations with, in addition to some grant funding, just to elevate this work within your communities. We know that the funding won't ever give you all of the capacity you need to actually do this work at scale, but our hope is that we could help to build your capacity to prioritize this conversation specifically around masks. So the reason why we wanted to talk today is because it's well aligned with what the team from the Dana Center has been talking about in the last call. And then today, really, we're looking for folks that are interested in moving this conversation, serving as demonstration sites. We know there's a lot of conversations happening, and there's also a lot of moving parts as it relates to transitions in the pandemic and COVID. So this may not be everyone's priority, specifically reforms around gateway math, but if it is, we're interested in having conversations with you. We're interested in supporting community teams that are partnerships between community colleges and high school K-12 staff, high school or school district, you could look at that as. The K-12 connection is particularly important to us here, as we want this conversation to be led by the community colleges, but not siloed and in isolation of the necessary connectivity back to K-12 partners. But we think that community college needs to sort of lead and say, we have K-12 partners, here's who our solid K-12 partners are, and this is who we want to work with on these particular projects, as opposed to K-12 being the lead in this conversation. So we would be looking for community colleges that have an interest not only in the conversation around completion of gateway math in the first year, but also wanting to do so as I think about academic transitions with a K-12 partner. As part of this, we would support a learning community, not much different than what the center has been really great at doing around a lot of things, in addition to this conversation around the MIStart2Finish work, but to make sure that we can share best practices, both nationally, but in the state, how things are going, what's working, what's not working, and how do we make sure to share those sort of learnings across the state. So this is big picture what we're hoping to do. And what you can see on the next slide is initial timeline of when this will roll out. So we're talking to you today. There's a few of you we've started some conversations with before today, but for many of you, this is the first time you're hearing from us on this. And what we're hoping to do is publicize, and I'll get the link to Jenny so she can send it in a follow-up email to you all, an interest form that's available this coming Monday. The interest form is not required, but what we're hoping to do via the interest form is get a sense of who's interested big picture in this type of work, and also do, I use this term lightly, but like a needs assessment. Where does this work sit in your prioritization? What type of support are you looking for most? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it expert national TA? Is it grant funding? What are your needs, and what's a realistic time frame for those needs given all of the other moving parts in your community and at your college, so that we can best scope out this plan and provide you support the way you need it and when you need it. You would then hear from us. We will lead follow-up conversations in August and September. So whether you reach out to us or not, we'll probably poke you and say, hey, Bay College, what are you thinking? Are you interested in this conversation? We'd love to talk about where you're at and where you see this work going, and how we might help catalyze the work and move it forward at scale in your community. How could this work to support you? At the end of the day, releasing a final program design and an application to participate formally in early October. So we've got several months still here of planning that will happen. We are committed to this work, but we also want to make sure we've got an ear to the ground from you all on how we could best be of support, again, in partnership with the center. And we're also working with Allison, who many of you I know at Sova Solutions. So we're excited to hear more from you. I don't want to take up more time on the call right now, but we will follow up with additional information on the interest form, and then you will hear from us as we try to dig and investigate with you how we could best situate support. Jenny, any initial thought, like questions that you have? I'm also watching the chat just to make sure nothing comes in that I need to address, but any questions from you?
No, thank you, Jamie, for that update. And I know that this is kind of just a preview. I will also be reaching out afterwards to the leads from the colleges to follow up and take some questions. Some of you on this call are the leads from your colleges, and some of you are just math people who are working on math. So I want to make sure that you know that we will be communicating more about this to the leadership of your colleges. But if it sounds intriguing, please feel free to let us know also at MCSS that you are interested. We're working really closely with Jamie and her team from MCAN, and we will, this is an instance where we are trying to really tightly align these two initiatives so that colleges can get the most out of it and we can get the most traction across the state. So please reach out if you have questions for me.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for being with us today. And the final thing that I wanted to just talk about with you as a group is that I have sent out to, again, the leads, people who indicated that they want to be the lead contact from MIStart2Finish should have received this developmental education practices scale of adoption assessment. On this slide, it says that this is due on July 10th. I think that I changed it after that to make it due on July 17th. But it's a fairly quick, it's a fairly basic survey of what you are currently doing to implement the practices associated with MIStart2Finish so that we can get a baseline. Please, again, if you are a lead and received this, let me know that, and if you are a lead and received this, please let me know if you have any questions. And if you did not receive it, know that the person who is your lead did receive it. And I'll just pause for some questions before I turn it over to Paula. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I have 2 slides. We do have a faculty roundtable coming up next week. You can register for it on the events page, and I would encourage you to do so. This is a chance to kind of follow up and have an informal conversation just with faculty who are teaching developmental math and English. Finally, we have some things coming up in the fall semester. Our events page is your friend. Check it out. You can see that, you can find the MIStart2Finish things with our logo. And if you want to find recordings and documents from previous meetings, what you do is you go to the event. You might have to click on that past event and go back to where you registered, and you will see that there are the recording is posted here and documents are posted over here, so you can access the things that you missed. Thank you for that, and Paula, thank you for letting me steal so much of your time. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and let you take it over.
Thank you, Jenny. And I have to say that your MCAN work, it sounds very familiar to some work that I'm actually leading in Central Texas. We have high school faculty and college faculty working together on some common assessments, looking at the psychosocial learning factors that we'll actually address some in this webinar today. And then also on the math pathways work, making sure that math pathways alignment actually goes down into K-12 and working with high school and university advisors. And that was actually at the request of the superintendents and presidents that we actually come in. So this is like our 2nd year of working. Last year, we really did a lot of robust work around just understanding math pathways and development of some common assessments and some of the core classes in high school that actually align to college too. So it's been very rewarding to be part of that. So I think if you sign up for that, you'll see a lot of value in that. It really helps for K-12 and higher ed to connect, to see how they actually supplement and are more the same than you really think. So let me make sure I actually have my chat pulled up. You disappeared from my screen, so let me do my participant list. I want this to be, this is a small group, so I want this to be very informal. If you have questions, type them in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand too if you want to speak out loud. I am on this by myself today, so when I do breakouts, you'll be randomly assigned. You won't be with your institutional team, because last time I had to manually put you all in those breakouts, and I can't do that while I'm actually presenting. And I think it's actually good to do a lot of cross collaboration and learning from each other. I think you already know the Zoom etiquette, so I'll quickly go over that. I'm going to move forward through these. And I can't see your background, so you don't have to worry about minimizing backgrounds for me because I can't see you at all. I see your names in a participant list, but they're not going to be distracting to me, maybe to others. So again, just some normal group norms. I recognize a lot of names from last week. This was a very good, engaging group, very supportive. But when you're taking on this work as a whole, it really is important to look for solutions into the work, not point fingers. That's especially when you get into that K-12 higher ed, there's always that pointing fingers. And even between community colleges and universities, it's really important for you to take on this work together. And I know some of your institutions, I know many institutions we work in, developmental departments are separate than the credit departments, and there's also the pointing blame. And it's really about everybody has expertise, come together, and be one in this work. It's all about the students. Just a little bit, just in case there was somebody not, I'll quickly go over this, but just about the Dana Center. We actually do have over 70 members across K-12 and higher ed. We actually have a large grant, a launch years grant, specifically working on that transition between K-12 and higher ed. And we actually, little known to very few people, we actually have a Literacy First program that is supporting kindergarten through second grade reading in AmeriCorps. So that's interesting that that's actually part of our organization too, and you don't hear a lot of that. So there's your early childhood literacy. We make sure we bring equity into all of this work. When we go in and do a lot of deep work, we encourage you, like last time, to look at disaggregated data, look at the teaching and learning. I mean, really put equity emphasis in your work. Uri Treisman actually started the Dana Center in 1989 at the University of Berkeley, and the governor in Texas actually recruited him to bring the Dana Center to UT. So this work has been actually ongoing for quite some time. Just a quick reminder about our vision. It is, we want our students to be prepared, enabled, supported, and empowered as mathematical learners. And I think everybody on this call is a math person or an administrator. We actually have branched out to support a lot of Co-Reqs in English as well, because a lot of the discussions you have in math are the same discussions that you have in English, and it helps to have a team at a campus that is kind of working on this together and learning from each other. In this particular session today, we're going to be focusing on the course redesign. Last time was the math pathways piece of it, and the multiple measures. We're really going to focus on the course redesign. I have packed a bunch of stuff into this. I don't know if we'll get through everything, but you will have these slides available to you. And the tiny URL right here, and Jenny will have access to this too. I put a lot of materials in there that will support you if you want to dig through it. And also in that tiny URL, some of you might have attended, it's been a couple of years ago, actually, what is it, October, I think, of 2017. 2.5 years ago, we had a Co-Req workshop at Grand Rapids. And all of those materials, I went ahead and linked all those materials in there too. So you'll see that, some of you might recognize a couple of these things, even though things have been adjusted, but feel free to dig in there. Again, the focus of this is the completion of college level math and English in the first year. And a huge part of that is actually your redesign of your courses. It's not just sticking courses together and having random Co-Reqs. It is thoughtful redesign of your Co-Reqs. Comprehensive redesign, quick recap from last time. These are the core elements that we've seen in many states have done successful implementation of math pathways and Co-Req implementation. It's really important, critical to align the math pathways with the default or recommended math requirements, which in Michigan, you're addressing a lot of that statewide. If you have your meta majors, if you have meta majors at your campus, it's important to have that recommended math requirement in there, not just like last time we saw that menu of any math course. Just the more that you can direct students and not give them that cafeteria style of what's your math course, when do you want to take it, it's more helpful to them. Multiple measures placement, which will be addressed with some of the work in early fall. And enhanced advising. I know Michigan's done a lot of work around enhanced advising, but really making sure that students have that campus support and that a person to help guide them right when they walk in the door. And then Co-Req supports for those students. The comprehensive redesign, the math pathways aligned to programs, co-requisites, placement, advising, and meta majors. So again, all of these fit into that pie around student success. So when we're looking at course redesign considerations, we need to look at evidence-based curriculum and pedagogy, relevant content aligned to programs, looking at the learning sciences, what's what is the research around the learning sciences and the success of students, and then your content of your co-recs. It's actually aligned to the gateway, just-in-time embedded student success strategies. And I know when I go through the presentation today, I know at the top of the mind of many people is how to do this in a virtual environment. Everything that we're talking about today, you can actually address and you can do in a virtual environment. I'm actually teaching a Co-Req math course, and I'm teaching it synchronously, and just from the first day, thinking about creating that community, even in a virtual environment, promoting active learning and student engagement. I use breakout rooms just like we're gonna do in here, ensuring inclusivity and access for every student. We have a whole, I'll tell you at the end, we have a whole series to support faculty around this. Again, leveraging that research-based instructional design, addressing the student needs, even in a virtual environment, and then actually evaluating tools. One of the big things that we've seen with this shift to virtual is the first thing many people did is actually they jumped to the tool. What's the tool that can help me? Instead of thinking about how can I design my course and then put the tools in as needed to support the work. So that's really important. So everything we're talking about today, I want you to also be thinking about how this can not only go when you're going future face-to-face, but how you can actually embed it in your Co-Req work right now. And it's really about, you're talking about in MCAN, doing that community of learners. It's really about even your implementation of Co-Reqs or a virtual environment or whatever. You're supporting faculty, you're creating that community of learners with faculty, so you can work together and continuously improve upon what you're doing. So this is actually a quote that is designed for students. This is some research from Eiler about the way that students learn, but the same thing is true for us as adults. In the professional learning environment, we need to be front and center in the learning process, and we need to learn from the research and take that research and put it into practice. Many of us, we've worked with, from campuses I've worked at, from institutions around the country, many of us in higher ed, we have degrees or expertise in English or math. Maybe that's your degree, but you really didn't have the education experience. K-12 does a robust program with supporting teachers to actually learn how to teach and some of the theory and practice. In higher ed, we don't necessarily have that. So we need to come together as a group and really dig into the research and learn some best practices and have that safe and forgiving environment as we're trying new things and create where we can take the research of teaching and learning and actually put it into practice. Just here's some quick examples of, this is basically trying to take a day and a half of a workshop and condensing it into 2 hours. So I know I'm going through some of this stuff really quickly. So please note questions in the chat that we can go through and anything that I can follow up with. But just examples of just to make sure we're on the same with terminology. Many of you might be trying commingled models. This is where you have the support course of students that are deemed to be put into developmental for a test or multiple measures or whatever. And then they're mixed into a college course of those students who are deemed college ready by some measure. So they all go to one college math course, and then you have a support course for the underprepared students. Then there's the cohorted model, where everybody in the support course is actually everybody that's in the college level course. And going between these, there's not research, there's tons of people are doing research on models, and it depends basically on your institutional makeup, what is best for you, because you have to consider adjuncts, you have to consider how many developmental students that you have. There's a lot of considerations that need to come into play when you're thinking about your model. But we're seeing very successful commingled models with statistics and quantitative reasoning. And there's some college algebra, but we're seeing a lot of the college algebra courses that have been really successful trying a cohorted model, just because of some of the front-loaded content that's needed before you start that just-in-time support. So just throwing that out there for food for thought. And the reason where these come into play is you need to think about just how you're going to set up your courses, and this is going to help with calendaring that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So if you have 2 days a week, you might consider having the support course before the credit course, where students in the support course are preparing for the credit course. I taught this spring a quantitative reasoning course like this, and my support course was a smaller course. There was 12 students in it, and the credit course, it was similar to an OUT model. The credit course had 24 students in it. And it was so interesting because the students came to the support course and we did some prep material. You know, they had a chance to ask any homework questions over the last homework that longer than other folks, but we also did a lot of prep for the credit course. And what helped them is when they got to the credit course, they felt more empowered and didn't feel like they were the developmental students. They felt like they were leaders in the course. It was really interesting to do the course that way. Some folks like to do the credit course first and then do the support course afterwards so they can practice some before their next course. Again, those are all considerations as you're setting up your courses. If you're lucky where you can get students every day of the week, well, right now in the virtual environment, it's a little bit easier. You could do it where you have a support course on one day, you have some homework preparing for the next day's content, you have the credit course, so you can actually alternate. And we're seeing a lot of good results out of this, where students are actually forced to do the math every day. But we know, especially with rural students who work, this is not practical for a lot of students. But if you can do this, this is a great model as well. And by the way, this last spring, I took over a course, and actually what I'm doing right now this summer, I still have the opportunity to do as an adjunct. I'm doing synchronously in a virtual environment, the same thing, where I meet with the support course first, and then we come into the credit course. And it's been very similar results as to the one that I had in person. Some best practices for Co-Reqs as you're thinking about your design. Making sure you actually align the content, and we'll go through an exercise here in just a minute. So they're getting the just in time. One of the tragedies that we see that a lot of folks do, for instance, they'll take an intermediate algebra course, take a college algebra course, and just cram them together and have 2 courses and say that's my Co-Req, instead of intentionally designing the courses and determining what the content, where it overlaps, where it needs to be embedded. And so just really careful design of the course. Make sure you provide the sufficient number of hours of support, not just what's easiest on your schedule. Some larger institutions, the place where I get an adjunct, Austin Community College, they have several campuses, but they have a large student body. So for a statistics course, they have a 1-hour statistics support, a 2-hour statistics support, a 3-hour statistics support to go with the statistics based on where they feel the students place. But again, that's not always practical, but as you're thinking about your redesign of your courses, or if you're implementing now and you're thinking about that that continuous improvement, really think about the number of hours that you have. And is that the right number? Do you have too many hours? Do you have to have that many hours? Just considerations to keep in mind. We've also seen better results with structured content, and not just have a support course that's a tutoring lab and unstructured homework hour. Actually, one of the first implementations I did at my previous college years ago, we tried just the unstructured support students. You come to this homework hour where the instructor will be there to help you. It was not successful for a lot of students. And when you actually disaggregated the data, it was more unsuccessful for minority students. So we had to go through and actually redesign to make sure that that support course was structured and not just a homework hour. Looking at your run side-by-side embedded remediation, run side-by-side or embedded remediation, that's kind of aligning the support, and make sure you're actually collecting the data and inspecting that data regularly. Can you do common assessments? Can you do student surveys? What can you do to actually look at your data regularly, and not just look at solely an individual person's passing rates, but really kind of digging into the data and seeing how successful they are in the next course. And if they're not successful in the next course, actually digging in to figure out which content they're missing. So looking at data regularly, data needs to become part of the language when looking at this Co-Req work. I'm not gonna read this to you. These are just some, we did interviews around the country with some successful implementation of Co-Reqs that they've been implementing for a while, and done some continuous improvement. So I'll just slowly put these up here for you. And by the way, this is a big one. As you are scaling up your implementation maybe of statistics, we often see the need for some more statistics support on how to actually teach statistics. So you might want to embed some sort of professional learning around faculty who are credentialed to teach those courses but have never taught them. So really making that intentional design around supporting faculty as they take on new courses. So these are some recommendations for the field, and what you see kind of stands out over and over. There's a lot of collaboration, there's communication, it's a lot of data, and really reflecting on the content and the supports of the courses. Just thinking about the backwards mapping to design the course, looking at the content, we need to keep in mind as we're designing these courses, what is the learning outcomes of the gateway course? And by the way, it doesn't have to be just math. This could be, development. This could be your Co-Req English as well. But really thinking about what are the learning outcomes? And it sounds like you're working on some learning outcomes. What Jamie was talking about earlier. What are the learning outcomes that need to be served by the pathways? What are the readiness outcomes that actually align to that? And what will help those underprepared students actually achieve readiness in the college level course? What's going to help them be successful as they engage in that college content? So you're looking at not only the math content, but you're looking at the learner success strategies. And some of you might have seen some of the research and the work that was done by Complete College America And there's research around it that many times in math, it's not necessarily that the students can't do the math, is that you're really looking at the success strategies of being a college student. So are you embedding some of those strategies that we'll look at to support them so that they can learn how to study effectively, learn how to seek out help, and then really help them themselves develop that grit and move forward with it. So this template, let me see if I can actually post the template, a blank template in the, oh, I don't see a file thing. Okay. So in the box folder that was earlier, there was a template, there was a packet that was in the box folder that has this back mapping content. So as you're looking at defining your back mapping content, so for instance, this is a learning outcome from a quantitative, actually it could be from any course, but a quantitative reasoning course looking at bivariate data sets. So looking at the data sets that involved two, like an X and a Y. So if in the college level course, if your college level goal is to create a scatter plot, what are the skills that they need in order to create a scatter plot? So in the college level course, you might be teaching the scatter plots, but you're not going to go through, let's look at labeling. Maybe they need to know that ahead of time. So do they need to know that in the support course? Or are you going to focus on that just in the support course? Are you going to reinforce it quickly in the credit course? So it's really thinking about your content and seeing, you know, what are the supports, what are the outcomes that the student needs to do in order to create the scatter plot. And am I going to teach them in the college? I'm pointing to my screen like you can see me, but I guess I have my cursor. So I guess you can see that. So looking at the content, are you going to teach it in the college level course, or are you actually going to teach it in the support course? So if you actually map out a calendar, this is going to take some extensive work to really do this right. Here's an example also, is expanding a little bit, maybe plotting coordinate pairs. They need to know that ahead of time. You're not going to teach that in the course. You expect them to know how to do in the college level course. So you're only going to teach that in the support course. If using technology, maybe you expect them to know how to use the grapher already, and you're only going to do that in support course and not the credit course. So really mapping out what you're going to do. And sorry, my mouse is over here. I want us to actually go into a breakout just for a couple of minutes. If you can take a screenshot of this, since I can't upload it, just take a screenshot of this. And I want you to just pick one random math learning outcome from one of your courses. I apologize, I didn't tell you to bring a syllabus or something, but some of you can come up with some kind of learning outcome. And just in your group, I just want you to practice just thinking about what is the learning outcome, what would they do in the college level course, and what do they need to think about it. If you need to, if you want to even take a picture of this one and expand, like analyze data to determine, create the model, if you want to expand upon that one, or if you have something more interesting that you want to do. So I just want you to talk through this with folks just for about 5 minutes. So you can take a picture of this screen if you want to use this one, and then take a picture of this one. So give me a second, because I am going to randomly put you into, I think I'm randomly going to put you, where's my, okay, I am going to have to, I don't see my, oh, I'm not host. Am I the host, Michelle? Anyways, let me do this. I'm going to stop share.
Sorry,
Now,
I'm trying to unmute and it was not working. Give me a second.
Okay. I was like, I'm not seeing the breakout tab. I can't send you away. There you go. Okay. So I'm gonna randomly assign you to a breakout just to work with some random folks, which you've probably been in enough of these meetings that they're not too random to you. But 5 minutes. Here we go.
Would you really like me to join breakout room 5?
No, you don't have to. Yeah, since I was doing the random, like we were talking about in the chat, since I was doing
it came up
the
with-
random, I couldn't like put people in it like I did last time. It just randomly throws everybody into a breakout.
Gotcha.
And I apologize. I think I said Jamie earlier. Did I say Jamie or did I say Katie?
Well, Jamie also said something earlier.
Okay.
I think you put it in the right context.
Okay. Okay.
I'm the transfer girl. Jamie's with MCAN and they're doing the sister project, I guess.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I'm late on a deadline, which is why I'm sort of just hanging out.
I understand.
I am going to have to run downstairs for a few minutes. So I'm assuming Jenny can help if we have any issues till I get back.
Okay.
Hey there. I couldn't join on my other device, but now I'm not in the group, so I guess I'm stuck here.
I'll stick you in one if you want to join.
I was in the one, I can see them, but they can't hear me because I don't have a microphone. I went to my office and I didn't realize how poor my technology is in my office. But I was in the one with Todd Troutman and Rafik MacGyver.
Okay. You should have an invitation to go back. So I assume everybody came back. I can't see you, but it looks like, I think the timer went down. Is everybody back?
Yeah, it looks like we have about the same number of folks.
Okay, thank you. So
This must be how the folks on Star Trek feel when they're beamed in and out of places.
I know, yeah. I was amazed when y'all beam back, it must immediately automatically, because sometimes when you come back, everybody's still talking and you're like, wait, we're back. So I just, we don't have an official share out here, but I just want, if somebody, a couple of people want to share out just their experience or any comments about I know you only had 5 minutes. If this was a workshop, you probably would have had 20 minutes or 30 minutes to go through as a team with some of your learning outcomes. But this is something for you to model when you go back on campus. But does anybody have any aha moments or any questions or anything that they want to share with the group? Either unmute, raise your hand, or just chat if you don't want to unmute. There's got to be one brave soul out there. Anybody want to share about what they thought about the process, even though it was short? Have any of you actually undergone this process? Have you started to do a process like this?
I'll jump in for just a minute. This is Dorothy Tappenden. So we are actually farther ahead in the process. We've got 2 Co-Reqs up and running, and we're currently doing a back map through our whole STEM pathway of math courses. But what my group discussed, and I think it's pretty common, the faculty buy-in, the concerns for students, and the concerns for faculty going forward through the process. And I think for every group, that's a very different dynamic. And I think it does have to be on an institution by institution basis as far as how you address those concerns most productively, so that people understand what the intent is for the students.
Those are some great points, Dorothy. I know at my previous institution, we were talking about the design of the Co-Reqs, and I had some folks that were just totally against Co-Reqs in general. And finally, I was like, well, come help be the leader in this and help be part of this process and help us design the Co-Reqs. And it kind of gave them that, where they actually had a say in the process. But you're right, it's going to be different by institution and the culture in your institution. And then Todd's comment about actually having the learning, I kind of threw you out there without a learning outcome, but actually having your learning outcomes established before you can do the back mapping would be extremely helpful, instead of me just randomly say, make up a learning outcome. And then we're actually going to get to the common assessments. That is something that is really good when you start to talk about the rigor of the course. If you can develop some common assessments, some institutions actually all create common assignments and everybody can control their own tests. Some institutions create common everything. Some institutions just create a set of common, some common assessments they just sprinkle throughout the course that everybody needs to put on their exams, or maybe some formative assessments in the classroom, so they can all come back and actually collect the data, looking at that quantitative and qualitative data. So some great points there. And something to keep in mind specifically with statistics and quantitative reasoning, it's really looking, the national statistics organizations are stating, it's not your algebra, you don't need to learn how to factor to do statistics or quantitative reasoning or quantitative literacy. So really looking at not what are some of your favorite concepts to teach, which many of us do, but actually looking at the content that is needed to support those courses. And especially with statistics and quantitative literacy, there's a lot of deep understanding and conceptualization that happens in those courses that the math content can be built upon. And then, of course, with a well-designed quantitative reasoning and statistics courses, you're going to have a lot of reading and writing involved too. I know that I was the only faculty member at a satellite campus, and I taught from elementary algebra to math for elementary school teachers to pre-calculus to statistics to calculus 1, 2, and 3, math for business and social sciences, you name it. I taught it all. So the students were stuck with me. And so I had students that were STEM majors, and they went all the way to calculus 3, and they needed statistics, and they went and took the statistics, and they said that was the hardest course ever because a lot of the reading and conceptual understanding. So it's really kind of thinking about the reading and writing and how you're going to support them in those courses. And of course, the necessary problem analysis skills that are extensive. There is a document. This was actually created by some leaders in statistics, Roxy Peck, Rob Gold, and Jessica Utz. If it's not in the box, I'll make sure I add it to the box, but they actually went through and did back mapping of statistics. They did what are the concepts students need to do in order to map to the statistics. So they did some of that work. Here's an example. This was actually from Roane State that we highlight quite often. So you'll see the Co-Req, they created common Co-Req notebooks for all their faculty, including their adjuncts, that went through and back mapped and aligned the content. And they had, so this is the calendar that all of the instructors actually had, because they had a lot of adjuncts and they had commingled courses. So they really needed to make sure that their content was aligned, and even their calendaring was aligned throughout the semester. So you'll see over here in statistics, I might be doing measures center, and then their prep assignment in the Co-Req course is operations on real numbers. So they carefully designed this notebook. And if you get down here towards the end of the statistics course, where they're doing correlation, regression, testing, a claim, back here they're starting to review some of those initial concepts that they did in the statistics as they're preparing for the final exam. So making sure you actually have an aligned calendar, and this really helps with course coordination when you have multiple faculty actually teaching the courses. I don't think I'm going to do this as a breakout since you actually just went to a breakout, but I just want you in the chat so we can have a documentation. Which model or models are you actually implementing? And then have you actually aligned the content? I think we had Dorothy mention that they're working on the path to calculus, but are you doing commingled models, cohorted models, which courses, and then have you aligned the content? Thank you, Dorothy. So y'all are going to be a quiet group for me today.
I guess I could speak real quickly for Glen Oaks Community College.
Sure.
We currently in the math area, the only co-requisite that we have implemented is kind of a step back from where I am hoping we can get to, which is our pre-algebra being offered as co-requisite with our beginning algebra class. And it is commingled. So I am not the, I'm the administrator in the room, so, or one of. So I can't speak with great detail to the work that the full-time math faculty have done to do the alignment and so forth. One of the things we're actually exploring right now is we're using Alex PPL as our placement during COVID-19. And we've been talking a little bit off and on about multiple measures in math. We haven't really settled on anything there. Because of PPL's kind of similarity in how they approach this with the prerequisite skills and so forth, we're trying now, I'm actually teaching a very, very small section of our pre-algebra standalone this semester to kind of see and try it on for size to see how we might be able to use that even in a more individualized way for students. But where I would like us to get to eventually is what you're describing with the college level course and a co-requisite for that. So we're kind of, we're moving in the right direction. We've done this for a little while, but we're about a step and a half back from where I'd like to see us.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And there are some institutions for that lowest level of students that some places call them the adult base, an ABE level or adult basic ed, depending on your placement, where I've seen them do that Co-Req model for those lowest level students, like with an elementary algebra course. And then the next semester, they can then go into a Co-Req, you know, college algebra or statistics or quantitative literacy or something like that. So I've seen those combination models for those lowest level students doing that and then going to a Co-Req the next semester. Okay, well, if anybody else has any things to share, please share them in the chat. Now I want to spend some time really thinking about how the brain actually works. I can't see you, but does anybody actually have a student success course? So in the chat, if you have a student success course, just type yes or no for me. So few yeses. A lot of yeses. Okay. Many times in the student success course or the learning frameworks course or the first year experience course or whatever you want to name it, they really go into a lot into the learning sciences, but that doesn't spill over into the math courses or even the English courses. It's really important to have those connections and embed some of this work into the math course as well. So if you have some faculty that have some great activities around the learning sciences, figure out how you can work with them to take some of those to embed into your courses. What we want to move towards is really thinking about how we can get students to develop that growth mindset. There's a lot of research around growth mindset and how students can progress, especially be successful in math courses when they have that growth mindset. And many times we've seen in higher ed, it's not just developmental students that come into us and say, I can't do math, but even our students that math has come naturally to them and they get to that calculus 1 or calculus 2 at the college level and all of a sudden they hit a wall and say, I can't learn anymore, I can't do this. Many the higher level math students have a fixed mindset, so when they hit that wall, they stop. So it's really important for us. So that's why it's a good to embed this into more courses than just like a learning frameworks course or first year experience or even to your first gateway courses. It's really trying to teach them how the brain can actually grow and develop that belief of their academic abilities that can support effort. And the positive academic behaviors that can reinforce this are, attending class. If you have growth mindset, when they've done the research, more of those students actually attend class. They ask for help. Many folks with a fixed mindset are afraid to ask for help. So again, helping them develop that growth mindset, enjoy the academic process and choose to tackle the challenging problems. So it's really, really critical to help develop that growth mindset, especially in those gateway and in the support courses. so the question is, how do we actually help them shift? Sorry, my participants over here, my screen is over here.
Hey everyone, I think Paula froze, so give her just a second here.
While we're waiting, does anybody have any examples of how they have embedded growth mindset or other learning frameworks topics into their Co-Reqs or into their gateway classes in math that they would like to share?
See, Jen, this is where sugary snacks kind of help untie people's tongues.
If we could figure out how to do virtual snack delivery during the meeting, I think we would really unlock something important. Yes.
Yeah.
Nicole at KBCC uses Dr. Chu's videos to help students be better learners. Oh, thank you. That would be great. Yeah. If anybody is familiar with Dr. Chu, that's some really, I have seen Dr. Chu present, and there's some really good stuff there. Anybody else used anything interesting? Thanks, Nicole, for posting that.
Y'all hear me?
Yay, you're back!
Back.
Yay, Paul's back.
Just blinked, and I was sitting here talking because everything just blinked, and we aren't even having a thunderstorm or anything, but we are almost 100 degrees, so it could be an energy surge. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, can y'all hear me? And nobody's responding, and all of a sudden it just went blank. So if Michelle or Jenny, if you can make me back, I'm already back a host. If you can make me actually the host, then I can do the next breakouts.
There you go. It just took me a second, but you should be back to host here.
Very cute. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's see. Let's see what I actually have to share. I had to bring back the calendar invites. Let me see what I'm sharing. I don't want to share that. Can you actually see my, can you see my screen?
Yep, you are.
Yes, you are back live.
There I go again. Sorry about that. And that's weird because I can't see anybody in the background. So I was talking. I was like, can somebody hear me? And nobody's responding. And then my computer blinked. Okay, so I'm back. So our question is, how can we actually help students shift from a fixed mindset to the growth mindset? I'm going to play this short video, and then I'm going to, and some of you have probably seen this before, but it's a very thoughtful video. And then I'm going to send you into a breakout to do a quick discussion. So this is a video, it's been around for a while, that I actually use at the front of one of my classes, not just my developmental, but my regular courses too. And we talk about it, and then we bring in some other examples like lifting weights or talk about Michael Jordan. but it's something that gives them a visual to constantly refresh or to reflect back on when there's a time in the semester when they're actually struggling. So what I want to do real quick, and it looks like some of you were sharing some resources when I went AWOL. And if I happen to do that again, I encourage you to stay on and talk about your Co-Reqs and how you're embedding some of these strategies. But I just want to send you again, just quickly into a breakout just to talk about what you think of this, maybe some things that you're actually doing with your students already. Let me do stop share so I can actually see the breakout rooms. So I'm gonna send you away for 5 minutes. Okay, I think we have everyone popping back in. And we have 4 groups. So I'm just going to ask each group just to share something that they discussed. So I'm going to start just one thing you discussed. Autumn, Janice, Katie, Michelle, and Nicole. I know I didn't ask you to choose a reporter, but if somebody would volunteer. It looks like Janice is trying to talk, but you're muted.
When I popped back out, I forgot it muted me again. So one of our people kind of didn't connect. And one of the things we talked about was that, you know, KVCC and Henry Ford College both were participating in the Gateways to Completion. And a lot of this work helps us continue that work. And so instead of, you know, talking about this as a new project, because sometimes that's not welcomed, this is a continuation sort of in a different stream. So that's going to be something that we really, that is one of the, you know, sort of main goals, because at our college we have all 3 pathways already set, and ALP is scaled up like 95%. So we really look forward to this piece of the work.
Yeah, that's a very important comment, that when you do take on new initiatives, they're not seen as new initiatives. It's actually part of the work that you're already doing. You're just continuing to build upon it. That's, I mean, and that's important when you talk to your faculty too, because if they hear something new, they're like, another initiative. It is really important to show how all the work aligns.
The same work, we're just taking a different avenue.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, so breakout 2, it looks like Deborah, Delta, Todd, and Rafiq.
This is Colleen from Delta.
Sorry, Delta came first, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I put the Delta first. We talked a little bit how it would be nice if colleges already have a student success course, if the instructors from the student success course and the instructors from the Co-Req might get together and talk about how the Co-Req math instructors can build in some of those success learner strategies into the math, not just, because right now it feels like it's more a little bit one-off what instructors choose to put into it, but maybe build it more into the curriculum so it's consistent across all sections. And then in that sense too, if they took the student success course, it would then build more and kind of reinforce those learning strategies.
Yes, that is definitely a way to move forward with this work and actually develop a lot of great, and there's a lot of faculty on your campus that have some great activities that if y'all could come together and share, you don't always have to go out to the experts to get those activities. You have amazing faculty who develop some really good stuff that y'all could share and develop some commonalities. Thank you, Colleen. Group 3 is Amber, Andrew, Ken, and Paige. And again, I know I didn't ask you to choose a reporter, so if somebody would be brave.
I think the group did a nice job of talking about the different ways in which we can use the bridge analogy and tie it to different situations. Also, Amber mentioned about creating the common kind of language across all disciplines, so that you know, as English instructors or what other discipline would be conscious, you know, that not to say I'm not good at math and vice versa, you know, we might not say that, you know, we don't write well or something to that. And then also we talked about transferability of skills, you know, between math and science courses and some of those discussions. I think that's just a general summary.
Thank you. Thank you, Paige. And then breakout 4, Diane, Jennifer, Jenny, Michael, and Steve.
Well, since they talk most of the time, I will go. We actually talked about, and I mentioned in the group, I love talking about brain-based learning. I actually think that thinking about the process for aligning the co-requisites is really helpful to kind of peel that back and show that to our students. Not necessarily the documents, but to really help them understand whether they're the, you know, if in a commingled kind of situation, whether they are just the college level students or they're the, you know, below college, the remedial students, helping them see and talk them through, here are the tools you're going to need in your tool belt, your math tool belt, to get from where we are, you know, through this topic that we're going to discuss. And I actually think, you know, having that fleshed out might be really helpful to be more intentional in teaching of math about that. So I find I can't remember if I said it in the big group. I'm a chemist by training, and so chemistry's almost as despised, or maybe more despised than math by a lot of students for the same reason. It's a mix of different things. It's a lot of conceptual things, but it's a lot of hands-on things, and so students kind of get lost. Where do we start? Where do we end? What do we need? So talking about our teaching is really helpful, and how we're going to get through, what process we're going to take. So that's what we spent most of our time talking about.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the more we can be open with the students and upfront. And just a side note, I do know why I assume my internet blinked because I now have a dog on top of me talking about how hot it is. A thunderstorm is now coming over, even though it was like, so anyways, I might have a couple of dogs that pop into the picture because it is actually thundering out there. And I have a dog in my lap right now trembling. So if by chance I do get caught off, she just fell off, get cut off in a minute, just continue your conversations, because this is just a random storm that's popping up in our heat here in Texas. Okay. Let's see if I can get my mouse back. When we're talking about some of the things that you talked about already, when you're talking about a purposeful engagement with the students, it's really helping them to understand. And I always tell my students that learning math, there's actually studies that show that doing math actually fights off Alzheimer's disease. It's really like, you know, exercising your brain and helping it actually grow. As if you're going to the gym, you have to go work out to actually make your muscles grow. They're not just going to randomly grow on their own. It is that purposeful engagement and helping them to understand that. And like I said earlier, I didn't talk about it, but Michael Jordan, I think it was his middle school basketball team that he didn't make, but he did that purposeful engagement and persisted, and look where he is now. So again, putting in that effort to really productive effort, there's a difference there, to really help your brain grow. And it's about making a choice to move forward with the work, putting forth the effort. And it's not just doing the same effort over and over. It's really understanding the effort you're doing and making sure that it's productive and that you're persisting over time. So there's a lot of research that shows that it is connecting the psychological and neuroscience research with helping them develop learning and problem-solving strategies, and combining that with academic challenging work that really helps the students persist and develop that growth mindset. And it's all about, as some of you mentioned, it's about the culture and climate actually in your classroom. What are faculty, what are you actually doing? What are your students doing to really support this environment in your classroom? And like I said, it's fun when I show that video, because oftentimes throughout the semester, they'll start to do it. I'm like, what are we doing here? We're building a bridge. You know, it's corny, but it sounds funny at first. Like, what are we doing? We're college students, but it seems to sink in. So to help them develop their strategies, we need to be explicit in our instructions on how the brain learns, what it actually means to come to class prepared. Many of them don't know how to come to class prepared. Help them teach them what it means to come to class prepared, teach them when and how to seek help, and then how to actually monitor their own learning and help them in the classroom, just like we had norms up front. Create norms in your classroom. I often say in the math, I want my internet again. Can you hear me? Am I there?
Beatboxing.
You're here, you kind of are fading in and out a little bit.
Oh, can you? Did I say this time?
You're here.
Am I here or no?
You are
You're
here.
here. We can hear you.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, I just had another blink. This is a random storm. It just happens to pop up when I'm doing a webinar. You know.
Jenny will wait frantically and so will to let you know.
Okay, and I think let's see. Oh, and now I have more dogs coming, by the way. But really help in the classroom. Sometimes when I'm even doing the math, I will purposely make a mistake, and sometimes accidentally too. And I will have them, like, you know, point out, like, this is a safe environment. We're here. We make mistakes, and it's a safe environment to make mistakes. Mistakes are expected. We learn from our mistakes. They're respected and they're inspected. So when somebody makes a mistake, we actually, as a class, come together and really, sorry, Trixie's not up here, really think about that it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. We learn from our mistakes. In the box folder that you have a link to, you will see that there's activity around building a learning community.
We lost you again, Paula.
I'm going to blame the dog this time.
Me?
Oh, you're back. I was blaming your dog. I was throwing your dog under the bus.
Huh. I am so sorry. Yeah, I am so sorry. And the thing is, I can't see you guys to see what your reactions.
All right.
Can you hear me okay, though?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. God, this is bad. I apologize. So please forgive me with our internet. Blame it on Texas. Just blame it on Texas and the weather.
I was just saying that the virtual world can be more real than the real world.
Yeah, and the thing that's happening here, this is something to understand, that this happens with your students too, and that's part of that building that community. I've seen a lot of faculty, as you move to this virtual environment, they're trying to hold students to the same level of interaction as before, but some of them are on computer like this and they don't have a webcam. Many of them don't even have mics on their computer. Some are connecting via phones, and just know that this is part of the virtual environment. And some of them don't even have Wi-Fi and they have to go to a parking lot to do Wi-Fi. So really thinking about and helping them know that that this is going on, and don't feel, just let me know when something like that happens. Just helping them know that this is normal in the virtual environment. But really developing that community and having those conversations. And like, I don't know if you heard me, I was talking about, like, even in my virtual environment, I send them to a breakout on the first day where I have them just find one thing that their group has in common and come back and share it. We do a discussion post about, tell me some of your background about you, so everybody can actually learn a little bit about their classmates. And I even have them do a discussion post on their past math experience, so they can see where everybody's coming in from, and know that they're not the only student who's been out of school for 10 years, or they just got out of the military, or they have kids at home, and everything that's actually happening there. And I saw in the chat when I got back on before, there's a lot of research. Carol Dweck has a lot of research around growth mindsets. And somebody mentioned Jo Boiler. She has a lot of resources around growth mindset. Bandura, there's some research with Bandura around, again, that capability, that you can get some activities. And this is also in the folder that I'll share with you with some of these resources. that purpose, giving a student purpose for being in class, seeing the connection. That's where they're aligning the content and giving them that content that's active learning and connecting it to what their field of study is going to be. So they actually see the purpose of learning the math and the value and the relevance to their lives and family and community. How can you embed some of those things that they actually see in their everyday lives and not just doing the rote math skills? And again, there's a belonging discussions notes that's in the box folder. And then, it's creating that sense of belonging to the class, actually to the institution and to the field of study that they're actually going to move towards. So all this is really important, especially when you're looking of course, everybody, but there's a lot of research even in STEM fields around minority students progressing in the STEM field. And it's the way the courses are actually taught and creating that sense of belonging in that community and that active and engaging learning that helps them want to tell me if I'm back.
You're back now.
Yes. Back now.
I don't think I've ever had my Wi-Fi cut out that many, or my electricity in my house cut out that many times in a row, ever. I know.
Paula, do you have a smartphone that's equipped with a hotspot?
That's what I was actually looking at when I went off that time. I was going to see if I could actually do that, but
I have the same issue sometimes, and I'm usually able to hold the connection using the hotspot on my phone, just so that you don't get flustered as you're trying to finish up.
Yeah, can y'all still hear me right now?
Now we can. It's really random. You'll like stop and kind of freeze and be gone, and then occasionally you'll garble like Jenny was, the beatbox.
Yeah, 'cause my electricity's out right now.
And now you just went. She's gone forever, I think.
No, I unplugged. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I unplugged from my monitor and everything, so it wouldn't do that because my electricity's out and I'm still on. So I think I'm connected via my phone right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we can see you and hear you again. So.
Okay. This.
We don't have your slides since they were likely on a computer screen.
Yeah. So let me go to where I was at. I must be on my Wi-Fi right now on my phone because I have no electricity. Okay, let me get through this so that we can go through some conversations. So you can see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
And so this actual, one of the workshops that we went to on an institution, there was this posted night, like this was a student artifact, and we were going in there to talk about the psychosocial factors and Co-Reqs. And I want you to read what was next to this night. Let me move forward here. This was a student's artwork statement. And we're not just educators of the content, but we are developing these students as they come to us to be people, to be productive citizens. And it is really important that we develop that culture in the classroom to create that sense of belonging, that connection to the institution, and help them actually really think about, this is my shield that I raise in front. So people, my stubbornness to open up to people. So how can we break down that shield and actually have a class where students show up to class want to be there, they're engaging in the work, seeing the relevance, and they're excited to be in school. And that really takes some careful redesign and a lot of professional development for faculty, thinking about how you're going to actually do that. And the more classes, some of you were talking about connecting to other departments, other courses, the more that you can develop this, not just in your Co-Req courses, but the sense of belonging in all your courses and connecting them to the different resources on campus, it really helps them to feel like this institution is me. I'm not just showing up here to go to school to get my degree. This institution is me. So kind of thinking about here, I'll come back to this just in case I do cut out, but I want us to think about what are your department's next steps about setting that detailed course learning outcomes, back mapping, developing common learning strategies, and then thinking about the culture, which is key to the department, that you'd like to see in the classroom. So what are some actions that you can actually take reflecting on this to actually make some real change on your campus or in your courses, and thinking about the consistency. This is where that collaboration and alignment comes in, because you might have one faculty member that does an amazing job at this and everybody's trying to sign up for that faculty member, and you have other faculty members that want to do that but they don't know how. So that's how it really helps. How can you support all of your faculty members so they have these tools and so students aren't afraid of which class they're actually attending? Really, really important to think about. And when we're thinking about rigor, often that comes up in Co-Reqs, is thinking about rigor. People are like, okay, so you're going to do a Co-Req course. It's going to water down my curriculum. It's not the same course. Some of you already talked about some ways to address that with some common learning outcomes. But let me be quiet here and let you read this, because I'm not going to read these to you. So these are some practical views around rigor. All students have the opportunity to tackle these problems. They can communicate the mathematics. They can articulate an argument. They can. They should all. This should be in all of our courses. So you shouldn't just have a. As we looked at last time, you shouldn't place somebody in a quantitative reasoning course because you think that's an easier course. All of your courses should be rigorous and relevant and well designed and aligned to the programs of study. In the math department's role is essential to determine that you have many folks that are probably involved. Do y'all have a, like we call it Texmatic? You know, there's AMATIC, there's MAA. Is there a Michigan version of Texmatic?
Yep.
AMATIC?
MIStart2Finish. Yep.
MIStart2Finish.
So again, thinking about how all those national organizations, I think there's now 19 national math organizations. They're all looking at these pathways and these courses and really making sure many of your faculty might not be involved in any of that work. So how can you take that learning and share that this is not just some random thing that we're trying to do on our campus because they say it's best for our students. All the national math organizations are saying this is the right thing to do for our students. The components of rigor, when you think about it, some people think of rigor as doing just rote algebra problems. Can they do rote algebra problems? When you think about rigor, you're looking at the procedural fluency, but then how that connects to application and how that connects to conceptual understanding. What's interesting, I was in an equity by design workshop a couple of weeks ago with Minnesota. They allowed me to participate. And they had James Gray from the Community College of Aurora. He's done a lot of work with the Center for Urban Education in California, and they've done a lot of work at his college around equity in the classroom. And one of the things that he pointed out with the math courses, he had two school districts, main school districts that came into the college. One was a predominantly white school district, and then the other one was a predominantly minority district. And when he actually looked at their learning in the classroom, the white school district mainly taught, Eurocentric, rotes, teacher at the board, procedural mathematics. And the minority school district, they actually did a lot of group work, conceptualization. Let me see if I can actually turn off my video, because since I'm on my Wi-Fi, I'm getting spotty internet. And so when they came to the college setting, a lot of them, what they determined when they actually did focus studies with students and with faculty members, when you went to the traditional math course in the college, it was taught the old sage on the stage, teacher at the board. There wasn't a lot of active, engaging learning. So it wasn't the way that the minority students actually learned at their school districts. And that added an extra barrier for them for the success at the college. So really kind of combining the teaching and learning of each student. You have your procedural fluency, but do you have that application, that conceptual understanding, and bring it all together and really thinking about the equity implications when you're actually doing the teaching and learning in the classroom? And I know that's a whole nother suite of work. And we'll be doing a couple of culturally responsive teaching webinars that Jenny showed earlier in late September and early October. And part of this is being able to actually communicate the mathematics. It's just not doing the mathematics, it's actually communicating the mathematics. Are they actually able to explain and understand and share what they're actually doing? And it takes a lot of collaboration. And if you can get the students to talk to each other in the classroom, the more you get them to vocalize the mathematics, the more it can help them to understand. Dorothy jumped off. I know she's involved with the Dana Center on looking at the path to calculus. But we have this document, Imagining the Path to Calculus, with re-envisioning that path. And this is a document I'll share with you too about students who really want to be there. So thinking about that path to calculus, students who really want to be there with that aligned content all the way through calculus. Even the college algebra course needs to be redesigned so it really aligns to the calculus course. That conceptual understanding, and where students are actually able to present those nuanced arguments. I want you to read this. And then read this. So that's another piece that, depending on your culture of your college, as you're redesigning these courses and developing these co-reqs, we often hear faculty, and again, it's and not just faculty. I mean, there's a lot of implicit biases even with advisors and so forth, that students aren't coming to us. If they just had better study skills, if they were just more committed, if they just had those financial resources. But we really want to turn this around. I know somebody mentioned this last time. It's not being a college-ready student. We need to shift even as in our classroom to becoming a student-ready college or student-ready institution where we can help students with that growth mindset, really help them develop the skills that they need to be successful students and want to be there, which also adds to the retention and moving forward. But those are often hot topics that take a lot of deep conversations within departments and even within institutions when you're looking at student success. This is some research with the findings that look at STEM grades. because even faculty members have, it's not just students that have fixed mindsets, and faculty members have fixed mindsets on some of their students. That my students come in here, they don't know this and they're not going to learn it. They're not going to put forth the effort. They came in with too many weaknesses and they're never going to learn this. So if you look at this with the same students, same type of students coming in, the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, look at the difference in the success rates of the students when the faculty member actually believed that their students, no matter where they came in with, they could actually learn, and they helped them develop and help the students create that sense of belonging, that yes, I can learn. So even us as professors have a lot of work to do around thinking about fixed mindsets and growth mindsets and really digging into some of that understanding. Here's some of Carol Dweck's research recommendations. It is about, understanding that we have a mixture. All of us have a mixture of growth and fixed mindsets. We need to actually explore and learn about that a little bit more. Focus on the learning process. You're looking at effort that leads to learning improvement. Teaching the students of how the brain actually works. Don't label your students as growth. You're a fixed mindset. You're not going to change, or even yourself, really thinking about, don't label them. And again, as we mentioned earlier, treat mistakes and failures as beneficial for the learning. The power is you don't know this yet. That key word yet. You don't know this yet, but you can learn this. So students aren't, and this is for teachers and leaders, students aren't going to develop that growth mindset unless we focus on conceptual understanding, give them feedback to deepen that conceptual understanding, and give them the opportunity to revise and demonstrate that growth for understanding. Some primary psychosocial factors here, working on self-perceptions. I encourage you to work with groups of faculty, as some of you said, reaching out to your student success faculty and thinking about communities of how you can build upon these, looking at self-perceptions. Motivation is a huge topic, attribution, self-regulated learning, anxiety. And in this article has a lot of good, and you'll have access to this deck, has some good information for your institute or your department to actually dig into related to these. And one of the when you're looking at that article, that research, it shows one of the biggest factors, motivation and self-perception, were most influential for both achievement and persistence outcomes. So motivation, what motivation is, it demonstrates the relevance of the math concepts. They can see the connections, they can see why they're learning this, they see in their lives and their careers and their program of study. And self-perception, again, providing those opportunities to discuss and justify the mathematical thinking. So again, summing it up here, you're looking at aligned pathways, meta majors with the default recommended math requirements, multiple measures, enhanced advising, and again, Co-Reqs, as we talked about last time. I know some of you are doing the piloting stage, but really working towards that scale. And I just wanted to quickly share an opportunity, and I'll drop this in the Dropbox. We have a foci series with focused online collaborative interactions where we have a group of faculty over a series of webinars. They're different than this because you're actually put into a Canvas shell where you actually have some prep assignments. You come together, you're going to be in breakout groups, you have work, and you're practicing some different pieces. You have you share your learnings, you're going to practice and implement, and you create a framework of continuous improvement. And it's 6 virtual sessions. I'm going over this quickly because we're almost out of time. 2 hours each. They're interactive, they're facilitated. You have a chance to interact with your peers. You have assignments where you're actually digging into the research. And here's an example of the the Canvas shell that you're in, where you have modules. And even, I'm showing you this quickly, but you can even think about how you can do this on your department as you pick some of these things to do. Can you develop, as a department, can you develop sessions for your department to meet about assessments, even in a virtual environment? Can you talk about looking at creating community, even in a virtual environment? So create these structured sections where you have your own faculty actually facilitating these. Our current series that we have one looking at student discourse, active and collaborative learning, creating group-worthy tasks, really dig into the psychosocial factors. And the big one right here is creating those learning experiences at a distance. So those 6 things that I mentioned at the very beginning of the webinar, creating that community, inclusivity in an online environment, assessments, universal design learning. We actually have a series around that. So you can take those concepts in the flyer that's going to be sent to you and think about, as a department, how can you tackle them? And if you as a department can't tackle them, we actually have sessions that you can sign up for. And I know we have 3 minutes left, and I am so sorry for all my internet issues. And I still am sitting here with no electricity. It is totally dark on my end. I have 3 shaking dogs right here. So this has been very interesting. So what questions or comments do you have for me as I quickly went through the end of those to make sure we got through them? Thank you, Todd. I feel I have to apologize. I've never had this happen before. I've been at the Dana Center 3.5 years and do a lot of virtual environment things, and I've never actually had it on my end where I lost everything, lost connectivity.
I just want to thank you, Paula, for pushing through it. And so many good observations and a lot of information. I want to reiterate to everybody that we will post the slides, the link to the box, and a recording of this session as soon as we can get it rendered and posted on your events page. And hopefully many of you will join us for our faculty roundtable next week on Tuesday from 12 to 1, where we can kind of unpack some of these a little bit further and discuss with each other thoughts, experiences, whatever. And that's also open to faculty teaching reading and English as well. So feel free to share with your colleagues.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Electricity comes on, Paula.
Well, yeah, and I have three dogs sitting here that I'm trying to do this with too, because they're all shaking and scared. I'm like, ah.
You did a great job through difficult circumstances. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. And Jenny, I will have pieces of the recording. I think mine's probably going to be splotchy. So
I think we're going to have enough. Michelle's been recording pretty consistently. We have, Katie and I have some recordings, so we should be able to cobble something together.
Okay. And I did the recording, but they might be in pieces. So
if you just shoot me the slides, that would be fantastic too.
Did you not get the slides?